Discover the true cost of hiring a professional property manager for your investment property. And here's a real world example of how my client saved a boatload of money by self managing. And honestly, this one pissed me off a little bit because when I looked at the numbers, I realized just how much it's costing people to hire professional property management companies. I will say again, not all property management companies are the same, but this one in this example is actually a pretty big name in town, and there's some really disappointing numbers you're about to see on this board. So we're going to look at four major categories. That's the property management fee we all know and love. This is the cost to fill the vacancy. What that means is whether your property management company does it or you hire a real estate agent, there's going to be some cost to advertise, list, show, screen, and fill the vacancy with a new tenant. The actual rent amount, that's the amount you're obviously making per month. And then the vacancy, here in Bryan-College Station, you should be able to pre-lease your property. What that means is well before the current tenants move out, you'll have a signed lease with the new tenants. So the amount of time between when the old tenant moves out and the new one moves in is really a matter of what's convenient for the new tenant, right? They may not want to move in right away based on when they're coming to town, whatever else. But it's also a matter of how quickly you can turn a prop out of a year, right? So we'll jump in real quick and look at numbers. Again, real life numbers as of 2024 here in College Station. So property management fee, 10% on a $1,500 rental comes out to about $1,800 for the year. Now, let's not kid ourselves. It's not free to self-manage. There is some cost associated with it. In my experience, $50 a month or $600 a year should be able to cover it. Next, let's jump down to rent. This one really ticked me off. This property management company was proud of the fact they were getting a whopping $1,500 in rent for this particular property. Now, in my opinion, because you're pre-leasing, you should get aggressive with the rents. Really see what the market's willing to offer or what you can get out of the market. So we were pre-leasing this about 3 months in advance. We got aggressive with it, and I was able to rent this out for my client for $1,850. It's a $350 per month difference. Now, what about the cost to fill the vacancy? Well, the property management company charges around 1/2 of 1 month's rent, so about $750. Now, I don't expect a tenant just to stay for 1 year. In the worst case scenario, you should be averaging about a tenant's staying for every 2 years. So if you have a vacancy every 2 years, really you're only paying this every other year, and your yearly expense is $325, right? Because we're going to do all this on an annualized basis. So it's a lot more expensive to have a realtor fill it for you to the tune of 1 month's rent. So $1,850 is what you're going to pay a realtor to fill that vacancy. $925 is the annualized cost when we divide that by 2, because again, your tenant should stay for 2 years. And then what about vacancy? Well, in this case, this property management company had a 1 month vacancy between when the old tenants moved out and the new ones moved in. It's a very large company, and they have a lot of move outs in July. As a result, they've got to give themselves enough buffer to make sure every unit's properly turned and ready for the next tenant. And I respect the fact that they want to get the units ready for the next tenants, and they do a pretty good job of that. But 1 month is a really long time. Again, you're a very small fish in a very big pond. But for my client, this was his only and first investment property, so he knew he was going to put in the time and effort to make it happen, and he was able to get that vacancy down to 2 weeks. That was a full paint job, repairing some appliances, those kind of things. So you can see, big difference between the two. Well, let's add them all up. Your property management, you're going to save $1,200 a year off the bat right there. And most people just stop there. They think, oh, I'm saving, $100 a month, not too bad. Well, what about filling the vacancy? That's going to cost you an additional $600. What about that rent? $350 per month times 12 months is $4,200 that my client would have lost by hiring a professional property management company. That number disgusts me. Our industry needs to step their game up. And then what about that vacancy? Allowing an extra 2 weeks of vacancy would have cost $925, roughly one half of that $1,850 that he was getting in rent. So because he had it occupied for the extra 2 weeks, he made an additional $925. When you add it all up, in 1 year, my client earned an additional $5,725, just shy of $500 a month on one unit in 1 year. So if you look at that and think about the time he put in, that's the equivalent of having a side job or making $100 an hour. And in this particular situation, that's the equivalent of a 10% increase to your ROI. So what's the big takeaway? Besides the fact that a property management company should not be accepting under market rents, besides the fact that being a little fish in a big pond is going to screw you out of $1,000 a year, my big takeaway is if you have less than 5 units, you're working less than 60 hours a week, and you make less than $150 to $200 per hour at your job, you should really consider self-managing in Bryan-College Station. If you got questions or you want to argue with me or you've got other ideas, I love all of that down in the comments below. Of course, we'll have a new video coming out next week. Guys, please like, subscribe, and enjoy this. And until next time, you take it easy.